Federal government earmarks $1.6 billion for seaport construction, just as the equities market sustains positive performance on bargain hunting. Plus, gold prices slip amid trade deal hopes. And all eyes on OPEC as another oil glut looms. The program is Business Express, reaching you from the network service of the NTA. I am Benny Adams, your guide. The federal government has set aside the sum of $1.6 billion for the development of 2 seaports in the South-South region to help decongest the Lagos ports. Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amici disclosed that the sum of $800 million was devoted to 2 seaports in Pesu area of Delta State and Boni of Rivers State, earmarked for construction. President Muhammadu Buhari has given approval for the commencement of e-operations by the Nigeria Customs Service. Controller General of Customs Hamid Ali made this known at the 2019 graduation of officers of Senior Course 3 at the Nigerian Customs Command and Staff College, Gwagwalada, Abuja.
We saw things like electronic cargo tracking. All these are things requirements for a seamless border.
As a nation, we are not doing too bad, but at the same time, there are some new things that we need to adopt.
We are now in the age of technology. Technologies don't work by themselves. We need the capable hands that can drive those processes.
Change has come to the Nigerian Customs Service, and we must be prepared to embrace it.
In another development related to customs, the continued closure of Nigeria's land borders is set to have renewed the zeal and vigor by farmers in Sokoto to produce more for the attainment of the nation's food sufficiency need.
If you don't close your borders and allow the local technology to grow, there is no way we can compete with the United States of America. There is no way we can compete with China. Such technologies are far away. But the only way we can develop and demand our own is by the way of closing these borders.
Next time, I believe the government will come back and impact more on the farmers, on the input that are supposed to be given to the farmers, so that we can use that opportunity again and grow more.
And to diversify our economy, not to depend on oil alone, but on agriculture.
You are watching Business Express. We'll take a short break and be right back. The ease of doing business in Nigeria has continued to gladden the heart of investors and dominates discourse within the economic circles. Startups, access to finance and sustaining funds for expansion, as well as providing and ensuring that the flow of such needed lifelines receive significant level of attention by Nigerians' Apex Bank. The questions being frequently asked are, how easy is it to access loans in Nigeria? Well, the World Economic Forum has given an insight into the answer, with the ranking of Nigeria as 130 out of 151 in terms of how easy it is to access loans globally. Moplang Dakok felt the pulse of people on the streets.
Access to credit is said to have a direct impact on small businesses, productivity, and economic growth. But how easy is it for Nigerians to obtain these loans, and how affordable are they? Business Express is on the streets of Abuja to find out.
It has been a very difficult issue accessing loans from banks. And some of them, when you go and tell them you want loan, outrightly they will tell you they don't have any loan. And then those who feel they have, they start asking you, what are you doing with the loan? What type of this thing? If you are doing business, you have to make sure you have collateral that you will give that will be more than 2 times the value of the loan, or you have a cash backed, if you have a cash backing for the loan. In some cases, the interest rate too. I've been to banks, microfinance banks that collect as much as 5% per month. You know, 5% per month is about 60% interest.
I have a loan from the bank before, but the loan was not favorable at all. We had a lot of challenges because people that lead up to the bank, they get a lot of interest that they'll get for themselves also, not for us. At the end of the day, you'll be paying for them and paying for yourself also. But I've been scared of going to the bank to get loan because of the incident, the last this thing that I faced.
The kind of business I do, I can't take loan, and the profit margin is, the interest margin is high. So it will be more than my profit. So that's why I don't go to the extent of taking loan.
So before, we used to take loans from microfinance banks, but I think ever since then, as we noticed the inconvenience based on experience, we just stop and quit. What we do now is we partake in daily contribution that pays us better. Yes, and it's more convenient.
Like many young Nigerians, Zakaria Ahmed is looking forward to that day when he can walk into any bank to get a loan at single-digit interest rate in order to reach his full potential. From Area 11 in Abuja, I am Moplang Dakok, and it's back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Moplang there. Now, to put in perspective the issues related to accessing loans in Nigeria, we have Dr. Franklin Ungu, who is joining us from our Lagos Network Center. Dr. Ungu is a senior lecturer in strategy, corporate governance, and risk management, Lagos Business School and Pan-Atlantic University, as well as a member of the World Economic Forum. Glad to have you join us, Doctor. Also with us here in the studio is Nii Akinsiju, who is also an economist and a keen observer of developments within the Nigerian business environment. It's good to have you here.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. For Dr. Franklin, Nigeria is ranked 130 out of 151 by the World Economic Forum in terms of accessing loans. What does that actually mean? And you happen to be part of them.
It means that getting a loan in Nigeria is difficult. I mean, that's a layman's understanding of what it is, and it shouldn't come to us as a surprise. Historically, it has been the issue. From 1960 to 2018, the average credit given by the banking sector to the private sector as a percent of the GDP is about 10% or less than 10%. If you compare it to South Africa, they're about 70%. Then you understand that Nigeria coming 130 out of 150-something countries should not come to us as a surprise. The banks are not willing to lend, and even the Nigerians are even reluctant because they've tried many times to get a loan, and it's a bit difficult. So if you ask 80% of our SMEs, maintain their access to capital, access to finance, remains one of their biggest challenges. So it's natural that we should come 130 out of 150-something countries. And there are many reasons for that, in terms of issue of collateral, in terms of issue of paying back the loan, and in terms of key variables that determine loan and risk. This relates to variables like rule of law, regulatory quality, and government effectiveness in implementing certain policies.
That as natural. It shouldn't be natural if in other climes it's working. Why is it not working in our own environment?
If we haven't done certain things right, then of course it's natural that we cannot be doing certain things in a certain way and expect the result to come to be in a certain way. That's what I mean by natural. I don't mean that it's supposed to be like, but what I'm trying to say that there's something that is called path dependence. The policies, the approaches, and everything that we've done with regards to financial sector tend to show that we don't have access to finance remains a big challenge in Nigeria. So the fact, one thing that we have to consider is the banking model that we are using. Is it very appropriate or suitable for our economy? And that's the first question. The second thing is, what are the reasons why the banks are not willing to lend? I mean, the central bank is trying at the moment to maybe to coerce or make the bank to start lending in terms of the new loan-to-deposit ratio of 65%. But it shouldn't be like that. There is a situation where the banks only give money based on collateral and other factors. It's something that we have to re-examine properly. There is no doubt that the bank needs to consider risk in giving out loans, and these are the factors. So it's not really about blaming the banks or blaming. It's about
some details about that. We're going to come into details now. Mr. Nii, you've seen the ranking 130 out of 151, bearing in mind that we have moved up like 15 places in the world ease of doing business. What is the balance for all of this? Is it not confusing?
It's not confusing. Of course, there are different indicators that are considered in ranking, in ease of doing business. Of course, we might have improved in some other indices, but in the particular case of bank lending, which we translate to individual or corporate access to bank loans, we may not, and I agree with the Lagos person that we've had institutional challenges, traditional and institutional challenges in people, individuals and corporates assessing loans in our banking system. So it's not, I also agree that that ranking is not out of place. But I think now there is a commitment by the CBN to change it. And of course, we are coming from a situation where there had been a misalignment between the source of fund and of course and the use of fund. That basically is a misalignment that has led us to what we have now. And yes, the other principal concern had always been that the banks would always look for less risk, assets.
Okay, so talking about these risks, there's a central bank initiative that, to a large extent, mandates these commercial banks to give this micro, small, and medium enterprises, startups, not just startups, and enrollments. Why is there a gap between such initiative and actual implementation?
There's a policy down. It's a policy that was just introduced in the third quarter, of the year. I think that was what Doctor was talking about, the loan-to-deposit ratio. That it's only what it defines is that the government, the CBN is saying that a certain percentage of your deposit must go to lending. In this case, I think in the June-July directive, that was the first directive to all money deposit banks, that you should not give less than 60% of your deposit. That's the ratio. 60% of your deposit as loan. And after by September, the CBN also issued an upgrade, and in October, an upgrade in that same directive that you should upscale to 65% of your deposit. So that's what's called loan to deposit ratio. Now, what that intends to do, of course, is to galvanize more economic activities through lending of banks, to users, corporate and individuals, with targeting, like you said, the SMEs, and of course, mortgage. Retail mortgage, and of course consumer spending. The whole idea is to start redirecting bank loans to the not only just to the real sector, but to consumer spending, to enhance capacity for consumer to purchase. The more consumers are able to purchase items, it also has a multiplier effect, on the industry and other aspects of the economy. Exactly.
Okay, let's get back to Dr. Franklin. Dr. Franklin, no doubt commercial banks have identified small, medium business owners as key to also the success of credit. And now the CBN is saying, give this credit to this particular people. Why this gap still existing? Yes, we have issues of risk management, collateral, like we heard from the responses. How can we bridge all of that?
I think it's something, what CBN is doing is commendable in terms of encouraging or coercing the banks to give loans to SMEs or corporate or individuals. I mean, it's quite commendable. However, it is not just it's not something that you do by fiat or by just outright policy. It's the banks are in business to make money, so they have to properly rethink and assess if the loans are going to give. Remember that the money is not owned by the banks. The money is owned by depositors. So if the money cannot be repaid, it means that the banks will have to pay, even though we have NDIC and other regulatory agencies. But what is important is how can we create a better framework that will allow the banks to give loans, and that will also ensure that people that borrow money, that they pay back. So unless we have that kind of framework, it might be difficult to say that we must continue to force our banks or coerce our banks to give credit to individuals, corporate or SMEs. One way we can do it is to say, okay, should we move away from collateral approach to lending? So for instance, in the UK, if you pay your rent or if you do certain transactions regularly, it's part of your credit behavior. So it's monitored that for 1 year, for 6 months, you haven't defaulted in all your key responsibility with regards to finance. Like for example, I buy things, I buy things on credit, and I pay as when due, and I pay my rent, and I pay certain things. Gradually, the bank will pick it up and say, oh, he's been doing well. And gradually they can announce, okay, let's even start with giving him proper overdraft. And at a very good interest rate. So you build up that capacity and build up that behavior. And gradually you can now, from overdraft, you can offer him a loan of 20,000, 50,000, 1 million naira, 5 million. And it happens like, but a situation where you keep requesting that individuals must have collateral or must have that or must have that, it will be difficult to achieve. And secondly is, how do we ensure that interest rate paid is a single digit? Of course, you cannot borrow, if you borrow money at 20%, 21%, I mean, it's quite difficult for SMEs to borrow money at that rate, pay tax at about 30%, and still generate profit to run the business. So it's quite challenging. So it's something that needs to have a roundtable discussion to see how can, if we're subsidizing petrol or subsidizing power, is it possible also to subsidize credit to the SMEs, and to see how can we bring down the cost of borrowing and also enable them and create the necessary environment for SMEs and businesses to thrive. So can we, for instance, have a particular place, maybe in every geopolitical zone, where you call it a business hub, where power, a telephone, good road, and internet are provided to reduce the cost of doing business in Nigeria. So that's some of the ways we can address some of these challenges.
Give an instance of how it happens in other climes. How can we domesticate that in Nigeria? Yes, we have the issues of the banks, the non-refund of such loans. can we have, how can we achieve this single digit interest on loans for SMEs?
Difficult, but I think it is achievable. I also think I will also encourage the banks. Some of the banks have been declaring very, very interesting profits. So if they've been declaring very interesting profits, it also means that they can, as part of their contribution to a better society, they can also significantly reduce the interest rate they are charging. And I'm not sure it will erode all the profit that they're making. Then secondly is it possible for them to do a kind of economies of scale in terms of certain things in terms of their certain costs that they are experiencing. So is it possible for the banks to come together and finance certain things together? For example, IT, some of the ITs that they have. It's sort of example also having a credit register that will assess people. So all I'm trying to say is it possible for banks to come together and say, okay, are there things that we can do together in collaboration with CBN to bring down the costs of our operations? It's also possible for CBN as well, and maybe other government agencies, to sit back and say, if it is for certain category of people, we can look at and rethink the way we can help them with regards to the cost of borrowing money and also the cost of doing their business. So, for example, they can also grant them tax incentives. A situation where SMEs pay tax at about 30% and borrow at 20%, and also other costs like local government rates, state rates, other rates. At the end of the day, when you open a business, you are reporting.
There, you've made your point. You've had Dr. Franklin there. All of this is about financial inclusion. If we get this right, how can this boost our opportunities in the economic sphere?
Yeah, I think I am going beyond the challenges, because I believe that the CBN, through what I call its suites of policies in recent times, have been attending to these observed challenges. Yes, it's just about taking off, but the policies are in place. For instance, we have what we call the collateral registrar. That is, you can register movable assets, your cars, your tables, your TVs, and all that as collateral, you know. And when you register it, once you use it to stand as collateral, you cannot also replicate that with another financial institution, as it were. So that is one way of taking care of collateral. I am hoping that there will be more buzzwords around some of these policies. Of course, you also have what we call the credit bureau now, where credit scores, you know,
I think that was launched in 2016, and it's been coming up so strong. Thank you very much, Mr. Nee. There is so much to say on this topic. We will just get to extend this more time. It's been nice having you on Business Express. And to Dr. Franklin over there in Lagos, it's nice having you. We hope to have you again. Moving on, the first trading day of the week, November closed trade bearish. The NSE All Share Index depreciated by 0.6% to close at 26,691.09 basis points, with market capitalization at 12.8 trillion naira. A total of 307.9 million volume of shares worth 2.5 billion naira in 4,609 deals exchanged hands on the floor of the exchange. At the end of the session, United Africa Company of Nigeria was the most sought after equities. Guinness topped the gainers, while Okomo Oil the decliners. Well, that is Business Express this Monday. Don't forget, you can access all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is @NTA News Now. The hashtag is #BizX. We value your feedback, so keep the mails coming. And join us on Wednesday. I am Benny Adams saying, keep thinking and doing business.